My high school bully became our substitute teacher. What he did when a student mocked my stutter changed how I saw him forever. I dreaded public speaking more than anything in high school, not because of normal anxiety, but because of my severe stutter that appeared whenever I felt nervous. Most teachers were understanding, letting me do alternative assignments or presentations in private. Then came senior year English with Mr. Peterson, who believed everyone should face their fears and gave no exceptions. Every Friday, someone had to present a 3-minute speech on that week's reading when Jake Miller walked into class as our substitute teacher. One Monday in November, my stomach dropped. Jake had been my tormentor throughout middle school, mimicking my stutter until I stopped speaking altogether in 8th grade. He'd graduated 4 years ahead of me, and now here he was, pairing clean cut in a button-down shirt, looking nothing like the shaggy-haired teen who'd made my life hell. He didn't acknowledge our history, just introduced himself as Mr. Miller and continued with Mr. Peterson's lesson plan. I spent the entire period staring at my desk, praying he wouldn't call on me for 3 days. We maintained this silent agreement to pretend we were strangers. Then came Friday presentation day. My name was first on the list. My hands shook as I walked to the front of the room, note cards clutched so tightly they crumpled. I opened my mouth and immediately locked up on the first word, to the stem of Steinbeck's, and no from the back of the room. Tyler Matthews part, our class clown parent, started a subtle imitation of my stutter. A few students snickered. I froze completely, feeling my face burn with humiliation. In that moment, I was certain Jake would join in, or at least ignore it, returning to his former role as my tormentor. Instead, he stood up so quickly, his chair scraped loudly against the floor outside Matthews. Through the classroom window, I could see Jake speaking intensely to Tyler in the hallway. Tyler's smirk gradually faded, replaced by a look of genuine shame. When they returned, Tyler mumbled an apology and slid into his seat. "Continue, please," Jake said to me, but then added something unexpected. "We're listening to what you have to say, not how you say it." I finished my presentation with the same stutter, but somehow it felt less overwhelming. No one laughed. When I returned to my seat, Jake gave me a small nod. After class, I lingered, pretending to organize my backpack until the room emptied. "Why didn't you join in?" I finally asked him. "You used to." Jake sat on the edge of the desk looking genuinely uncomfortable. "My younger brother developed a stutter after a car accident 2 years ago," he said quietly. "Check it, what he goes through." He shook his head. "I didn't understand back then. I do now." He pulled out a business card and handed it to me. "Speech pathologist at the university hospital. She's helped my brother tremendously." I stared at the card, confused by this version of Jake that didn't match my memories. "I was cruel to you," he continued. "I can't undo that. But what I can do is make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else in my classroom." As I turned to leave, he added, "Your analysis of Steinbeck was excellent. By the way, you should consider literature as a major." The following Monday, Mr. Peterson returned and Jake was gone. But something had shifted. I raised my hand in class that day for the first time in years. Last week, 8 years later, I gave my first lecture as an assistant professor of American literature. As students filed in, I noticed a familiar face in the back row, parent Jake Miller, sitting beside a young man who I assumed was his brother. After class, he approached my desk. "Professor Davis," he said with a smile, "my brother's starting his freshman year. He insisted on taking your class. After I told him you were the best Steinbeck analyst I'd ever heard, people can change. Sometimes they just need to see the world from a different perspective first."